It is extremely likely that you use more than one application to get your work done. And wouldn't it be cool to have the ability to send and receive information from virtually any app you can imagine? Today, I want to share with you a concept that will allow you to do that in virtually any app you use, and it's the concept of a webhook. So a webhook is simply a message between two parties. So if you imagine a chat between you and your mom, or you and your sister, or you and whoever, you can open up that chat, allow that person to message you at any time, and whenever they do so, you will receive it and respond as a result. So here's just a simple example, or maybe a application that you're using. You want to send data to another platform when a task is completed. We're going to see a couple of examples in more detail in a little bit. There are two types of webhooks, as you would expect. There are the ones that receive the data, right? There's the ones that open up the chat, open up the possibility to receive it in the first place. And then you have the outbound webhooks that are the ones that actually send the data for the other one to receive. Now, the first step in figuring this out is to see if your app has type 1, type 2, or both. So here are a couple of examples. A tool like ClickUp has built-in automations. Within those built-in automations, they have steps. And one of those steps could be executing a webhook. And this would be an example of an outbound webhook from the perspective of ClickUp that you can send to other apps. Carbon has a very similar webhook. Unfortunately, I don't think you can do it from the interface, but via the developer documentation, you can create webhooks so that every time you change a contact, you change a work item, that information gets sent elsewhere, and that elsewhere you define, right? There's also HubSpot. Similarly, is a very popular marketing automation platform, and within its automation features, its workflow features, you can have a step which is sending a webhook somewhere else with the data of the particular element you're working at that time. Now, this is some example of tools that had outbound webhook functionalities. This doesn't mean you can't send data to these apps. It's just that they don't have, like other platforms do, the ability to have a customized chat, so to speak, a customized way for you to get me any data I want and for me to process that data. Now, there are other applications like Go High Level, which is a popular marketing automation platform as well, that have both inbound webhooks to receive information and webhooks or custom webhooks to send it. And of course, the typical and popular integration platforms like Zapier and Make also have functionalities to both receive, if you create on Zapier as a first step, a webhook app, or if you create it as not as the first step, you also be able to send. So you can both receive and send. In the same way with Make, you have a webhook module to receive the information, and you have a HTTP request module to send any data you want to other applications. So I want to see an example because that's how we learn. So let's imagine I want to take certain actions when a task in my project management system is completed. This action could be, I want to send an email to the client to let them know that we've finished this. I want to maybe schedule a review meeting with a team member that has to, as a result of me completing this, has to review certain items. Or maybe I want to ask the client for a review or a referral because it's a big task that I've completed that has delivered value to them, and I want to take advantage of that instant, that opportunity for them to review and refer my business. So let's do an example with from ClickUp to some of the popular integration platforms, which are in this case Zapier and Make. So I already have pulled up here an example list of tasks. I have just one here with a variety of different custom fields, right? This task has a budget, an email, a type, a priority, and I want it so that when I mark this as complete, it sends the data to both of these apps. I'm gonna do it with both, just because we have clients on both platforms, and hope it's useful. So let's create a trigger on Zapier first. And as I mentioned earlier, the Webhook tool, the Webhook built-in tool, as a first step, is the way in which you'll be able to, again, remember, open up that chat, essentially perk up your ears to receive any data that comes in. So in this particular instance, I'll just use catch hook. We can dive into the differences in a later episode. But for the time being, let's just hit and continue, and you'll see a URL that pops up. That URL, it's essentially the chat between the app you want and Zapier. This is where Zapier is going to listen to any app that comes in. So if I copy that, I should be able to come here and say, hey, let me create an automation on ClickUp so that when something happens, what do I want to do? I want to execute a webhook. So if I search for webhook, here's the webhook. Is going to ask me for a URL. I'm just going to give it the URL, and in some instances you might want to add those fields. I already know that ClickUp by default gives us some of that information anyways, so I'm just going to say here when the status changes to what? To completed, it's when I want to send that data. Now I'm not going to do it yet. I'm just going to call this for the time being Zapier example, because I want to share how this would look like on Make as well. So on Make, which is another integration platform, probably number 2 after Zapier, you have webhooks as modules, as apps. And if you click on that, you'll see again a variety of options, one of them being custom webhook. And when you create a custom webhook, it will ask you for some details. Typically you will just hit save, and you will have again another URL. Similarly to Zapier, this is just opening up the chat to receiving custom information you want. I'm gonna copy that address to the clipboard, and what I'm going to do, I'm just going to create another task, another automation that sends the data to Make in this instance. So I'm gonna say here, Make example. Now, if this was done the right way, what should happen is that if I start listening, here I'm telling Make to start listening for any information that comes in, and I'm going to be testing here on Zapier. You see no request found yet, but if I come here and I mark my task as complete, that information should flow to both of them based on the automations I've set up here. Let's see if that happens. If I click here and test trigger, ta-da, here we see the testing task that has the status completed, that has this email address, and that has this tag, right? And you can see all of the different items. That has this priority, which is high priority, which has this budget, and it has this email, and it has this drop down item as well. So you can see how you have all of those, all of that information that relates to that task be sent here. And now you can from there potentially, in the examples we share, use that email, use that task ID to perform the actions you want. You can see here on Make that it also ran, and you should see effectively the same data. It's organized a little different because the platform is a little different, but you can see also the same information was brought in. So this was just a short tutorial to share the concept of a webhook and how to get it done. I hope that was useful. As usual, feel free to comment down below, subscribe to the channel, and if you have any questions, leave us a comment. I appreciate your time and hope to see you in the next video.